Hey, everybody. Hello and welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. A lot of culty things to talk about today, including Scientology has retaliated. Going to look at that. Riley Keough is talking about her stepdad, Michael Jackson. How weird is it? I mean, I have a grandpa dad or had, and I think that's weird. But to say that Michael Jackson was my stepdad, I don't know. That kind of takes the cake. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to look at how Scientology is targeting trauma victims. I know this might be shocking to you. We're also going to get into how Jon Atack has dropped some truth bombs that has me questioning my entire life in many ways. We are going to talk about that. Welcome, everybody. Hello to the moderators. Thank you for being here. Hey, everybody in the live chat. If you're on the replay, aloha to you. Jump in those comments. Thank you, everybody, as usual, for bringing the aloha to the live chat, being warm and welcoming to each other, throwing in that aloha, those flowers, whatever it is. We got to create a vibe. It is a vibe. We need a lot of aloha. I need a lot of aloha. Oh my God, look too. I'm wearing a flower shirt. It's almost like an aloha shirt. Thank you, Dr. MLS. Thank you. Let's see. God, I can't wait till we get into the Jon Atack stuff with a video I did with him yesterday, because there's stuff that came up that just I am still reeling from. And to be honest, I'm kind of mad about it. I'm mad about it. We're going to talk about it. I need to process. So y'all going to help me through this. But let's kick things off with a story we've been talking about. Scientology's Narconon in Africa. It has been hitting the news that they have not been paying their staff. Not only have they not been paying their staff, they've been putting aside certain taxes, and I say that with air quotes for those of you not watching your screen, that they are not giving to the proper authority. Like they're not even signed up for these things. So what's happening? It's a lot of what's happening. Then we find out that a lot of the staff live far away, so they're staying there near somewhere on the property. Bottom line is they're paying Scientology. So they're not getting paid. They're doing all this work and they're actually paying to be there. Well, Scientology has retaliated. Let's take a look at a clip from Growing Up in Scientology on a story that just came out yesterday as a follow-up on this Scientology Narconon story.
Scientology-linked rehab boots out whistleblowers who exposed illegal labor practices. After Daily Maverick ran an article about how Narconon Africa Rehab Center allegedly abused workers, engaged in irregular practices, and flouted labor laws, the organization responded by kicking the whistleblowers off the premises. Now realize, guys, it's not just like an employee being asked to pack up their desk and leave. They live on the premises. And if my Google searches were correct, one of the employees that they did this to lived like a 6-hour drive away. And not only have they not been getting paid, but they've been having to pay to stay there. And
how insane is that? You have to pay to stay there. You have to work for free. And then when you complain about it to the authorities, the governing authorities, they kick you out. Now, I don't know what the rules are in Africa. I just know in a lot of other companies, in situations in the United States, when you are a whistleblower within an organization, there are certain protections. I don't know how this works in Africa. I don't know. It's just Scientology doing Scientology. It's Scientology being very, very Scientology, very culty. But good Lord, it's like you work these people so hard, and they made a lot of money, you guys. They're charging like $10,000, $20,000 for each person that they have in there, each student, which I also said in air quotes for those of you not watching your screen. What is the deal? And they had a whole bunch of money. They had gotten a whole bunch of money in their first year. How do you have this big, beautiful building and not have the resources to pay your staff? It's just it's so backwards. But this is what's happening because Scientology has to use the administrative technology of L. Ron Hubbard. He said, this is how you run an organization and basically run it into the ground. And this is what they have to do because it's Scientology. You are so right, Marcy. Narconon only cares about the money. Exactly. The money, hiding from lawsuits and trying to cover up the deaths. Deaths. It's a weird word this morning. You know what I'm saying? Narconon has a deep, dark history when it comes to that. You know who else has a deep, dark history? Danny Masterson. There is an update on his case. Let's roll up our sleeves for this. Let's roll up their sleeves. Let's take a sip of our. Today, I am enjoying some apple cider vinegar. I like it just with water. I know some of you are going to be like, ooh, girl, gross. Okay, little side note, sidebar here. Since it's just us, okay, and I know a lot of my former Scientology friends are here. A lot of people I know, especially from the Sea Org, cannot stand the taste of vinegar because of some of the things that we drank in the Sea Org or in Scientology while doing the purification rundown. They make this concoction, CalMag. It's not that way for me. I love the taste of vinegar. I love kombucha. I love apple cider vinegar. I don't know what it is. It doesn't gross me out, or I have family members who are like, I cannot have vinegar ever again because it triggers their Scientology or Sea organization experience. I don't know why that's not CalMag VGIs, CalMag. I don't know why that's not the case for me. But there are some, anyways, I'm not going to get into apple cider vinegar, but there's health benefits to it. But honestly, I like the taste. I am such a freak. It's just not one of those things that bothers me, but I know some people drives them nuts. Even Abraham thought, ooh, girl, gross. I know, right? No, I don't even try to cover up the taste. I don't add honey or nothing like that. I could probably just straight, take a spoonful of it, but I like to sip it in water. That's right, BGIs. I knew you would say that completely, but I would. The former Scientologist in me would like to acknowledge the former Scientologist in you and that vinegar might be incredibly triggering, but I love it. I love it. I know. I know what a lot of you would think and feel about that, especially the former Scientologist. Well, Bina, you're the best. What did Scientology do to your taste buds? I gotta wonder. In all honesty, I think part of it is I do have some of my health stuff sometimes does actually affect my taste. And this is one that's just been I can taste it. It's almost like what I use to test. Okay, am I having issues with how I'm tasting something or how I'm perceiving I'm tasting it? I'll try the apple cider vinegar and be like, no, I taste this. It's all good. Okay, enough about that. Don't go around telling everybody now Natalie is a freak for vinegar, even though I totally am. Okay, so, Danny Masterson. That's right. We got to talk about this update. We do. Although I got to read this comment first because I want to know what it says. Squirrel SPTV. A friend of mine in the choir drinks vinegar prior to singing. Can you imagine the smell and effect on me choking on it prior to singing? That's what's so great about being on YouTube is you guys have no idea if I just ate onions, tuna, anything like that. Half the time I'm not even wearing pants, although I am right now because I have to go do some things after this and leave the house. Yeah, Cooler by the Lake. Apple cider vinegar is really good for digestion. Yeah, I've been really working on that. I started a new probiotic. I'm taking my vitamins again, just little by little, trying to build my strength. I've been thinking about doing push-ups. I've not actually done them yet, but I'm thinking about it. Just start with 1 or 2, see how many I can build up. I feel like that's good for the flabby arms. Maybe I should do I don't know, any of you interested in we should do some push-ups. Maybe we need a push-up club. Anyways, I'm getting totally sidetracked. Carla's loving wife. You shouldn't be. It's all about being comfortable. Except for Danny Masterson, who should never have any comfort whatsoever. Danny Masterson appeals court accepts Cliff Gardner's trimmed down brief. So this is from the Underground Bunker. I'm going to link it down below. I'm going to link down below all the articles and clips we're looking at, talking about, so you can go check them out yourselves. So goes on to say, we traded emails with the California Court of Appeals, Second Appellate District, and received confirmation from the court that it has accepted Danny Masterson's trimmed down appeal brief. Y'all remember it was massively long. It's like they turned in a giant encyclopedia series. It was crazy. Previously, we posted the oversized version of the brief that Masterson's attorney, Cliff Gardner, released on his website, and that ran over 59,000 words. 59,000 words, and you put it on your website. What could possibly be that? What could possibly the reason for doing that? Because you know it's not going to go anywhere and you're just getting it out there. Previously, we did that. The court instructed him to get it under 35,000 words by January 22nd, and Gardner did, in fact, make that deadline. He also filed an application asking the court to take judicial notice, which the court accepted. What is that about? Well, one of the principal arguments of Masterson's appeal brief is that the jury should have heard more about how the Jane Does, if Masterson was convicted, would then be able to sue him civilly. In other words, Gardner argues that the jury should have heard that the Jane Does had a financial incentive to say that they had been attacked. Our observation was that that's simply the way the law works in California. You have up to a year to sue someone who's convicted of a felony for victimizing you. And also, we saw these women testify and go through cross-examination 3 separate times. It appeared pretty plain to us that they weren't putting themselves through that harrowing experience for a financial goal. But Gardner obviously seems to think that Judge Charlene Olmedo erred by not allowing the defense team to focus on this in the trial. And so he's asked the court to take a look at the Bixler civil lawsuit, which the Jane Doe filed against Scientology and Masterson, and that a year to the day after Masterson's conviction, the Jane Does did indeed ask the court to add sexual battery allegations to the lawsuit. The Bixler court has not had a chance to rule on whether those allegations can be added. However, meanwhile, Masterson remains in prison serving his 30 years to life sentence, and he's been in custody since the day of his conviction on May 31st, 2023. We really have no idea whether these arguments will make a difference with the appellate court. We'd like to hear from the lawyer types in our commenting community about their thoughts on all of this. Interesting. Also, he's got some more information about the story we just talked about, as well as if you happen to be near Ventura, Diane, more fun than sitting at home, or the Canning Nana, our friend Diane, I think has protested out of Ventura. You're invited to an International Association Good News briefing. I thought this was like hilarious because this is like some really good, this is Scientology propaganda here, but check it out. Find out how we are becoming the stable datum for help. I can't even say it with a straight face. We are on the air and in the streets. It just sounds like a funny thing for Scientology to say. We're on the air and in the streets. I don't know. Anyways, people are reaching out to find out who we are and how they can help, all thanks to your support. Saturday, 1st of February, at the Ventura Org Chapel, catered taco bar at 3 p.m. Reserve your seat. There's the number. So, I don't know if you guys want to miss out on this. This is like, I don't know. I've not been one that could really turn down a taco bar. I don't live nearby. But just, I hate to be picky. You guys know me. I'm not the call out queen. But these periods here in this flyer are really making me crazy. Find out how we're becoming the stable datum for help, period. It's a flyer. You don't put periods. We're on the air and in the streets, period. People who are reaching out to find out who we are and how they can help, period. All thanks to your support, period. I know I'm being nitpicky. I am. I know, but it's still weird. And here's what's weird about it to me. One of the things that makes that weird to me. Excuse me, Scientology, but do you not have a course called the Key to Life course, Grammar and Communication, and other ones that you have your members do to learn this type of thing so that we can better read, understand, duplicate, and execute the orders of L. Ron Hubbard and these days David Miscavige? So it's interesting to me that they put out a flyer like that, because just like how they like to say that communication is the universal solvent and all of these things, you don't really see it. You don't really see it play out. But I don't want to be picky. I don't want to be picking on them too much. There's so much. It's just one of those things you ever have where your brain just can't unsee something and you become over fixated on the one thing when really there's an overall message. Yeah, I can't stop looking at the periods on there. That's what it's doing to me. And I don't claim to be an expert, right, with grammar and all of the things. I'm just being very judgmental about it because it stood out and triggered my brain to go, why are they doing that? I need to get whiteout on my screen. And for you younger people, whiteout is this thing that came in a bottle. We called it liquid paper. It was the coolest thing ever because back in my day, gather around for back in my day, I remember being in middle school and we had typing class, but to correct your mistake, you had to get out the liquid paper. And then just you always wanted to put it on smooth enough that you really couldn't see that you made a mistake. Nostalgia. I heard they still sell liquid paper. I don't know what for. If somebody knows, let me know. Let me know. Okay, so now we need to talk about Riley Keough. Riley Keough is the daughter of Lisa Marie Presley. I've been wondering, is she a Scientologist? Is she not? I don't know. It depends on the day. Sometimes I think she's not. Sometimes I think, ooh, girl is way into Scientology. Sometimes I think she's just riding the fence because her family ties in Scientology and she doesn't want to enforce disconnection. I don't know. But here's what we do know. She talked about, shared information about what it was like having Michael Jackson as a stepdad. And I got really curious about that. I never really thought about it from her point of view because, I am an expert when it comes to stepdads because I have had 3 in my lifetime. My first stepdad, who got my mom into Scientology, my second stepdad, who was my grandpa, so grandpa dad, and my third stepdad, who my mom was actually married to for over 20 years up until the time that she passed. So I kind of got the market on this stepdad thing and grandpa dad. But Riley Keough had some interesting things to say about having Michael Jackson as a stepdad, including that she didn't know, that they did not know about the allegations against him. And I found that very interesting. Lisa Marie Presley's daughter speaks out about how mom's marriage to Michael Jackson changed family. So Elvis's daughter was married to Michael Jackson in the 90s. Lisa Marie Presley's daughter has spoken out about how her mom's marriage to Michael Jackson impacted her family. Riley Keough is the daughter of Lisa Marie Presley and Danny Keough. Danny Keough, you got to remember too, comes from a Scientology family, which is in part why I think maybe she doesn't want to burn the bridge down, no pun intended, when it comes to Scientology because of those family connections. It gets complicated. So Lisa Marie and Danny were married. They were married from 1988 to 94. The eldest grandchild of Elvis, she has followed in her family's footsteps in becoming an actor known for her roles and blah, 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 blah. So following her split from Danny, Lisa Marie was married to Michael Jackson from 94 to 96, which we remember that because I think many of us were like, what in the world is happening? So I was a Scientologist then, 94 to 96. 94, I think I had a freeloader debt then. 94. No, I was back in Scientology's good graces because of the amnesty that came about in 93, where they came to all of us former staff and Sea Org members and said, because of the amazing win with the IRS, that we now have tax exempt status, we are offering all of you degraded beings a deal you can't pass up. 1, an amnesty. Write down all your crimes, your sins, your overs against Scientology. Send it to us. Put it in writing, and all will be forgiven. We're also going to let you pay off your freeloader debts at a hugely discounted price. Forget the fact that most of it was on-the-job training or training you needed to do your job that we then billed you for. Ridiculous. Cassie's Corner. Riley is in therapy. Would a celeb get a pass to be able to receive therapy while in Scientology? I doubt even a celeb could do it. Cassie, is she in therapy? Is she? You got to tell me more about that. No, she wouldn't get a pass. Not if she was a true active Scientologist. Now, if she had one foot out the door or negotiated some type of truce going, look, I will not come at you, but you will not come at me. Maybe. Because then what do they have to say? Because she's not really a Scientologist. If she really is in therapy, then that for me that's a point in the column of Riley Keough is not a Scientologist. What do you guys think? Tell me in the chat. If you're on the replay, jump in the comments of the replay. Do you think she's still an active Scientologist, or is she just kind of under the radar trying to, hold her family together? I want to know what you guys think, because this is one for me that I just don't know. I really can't say for sure. Oh, Marlene, you read the book? Worth a read? Totally. I listened to it on Audible. I thought it was a great book as well. I do. Yeah, that's right, Cassie. Wow. So they made y'all offer up blackmail material on yourselves in order to clear your debt. Yes. Oh, yeah, they did and they do. They did and they do. So Julia thinks she's under the radar, which is kind of like being in the middle. And honestly, that's kind of like my leaning right now. I do think it is. Hey, Bob, shoot me an email. If you're a former Scientologist, I want to chat with you. Natalie@lifeafteraccult.com. Kathy says she's a fickle Scientologist. Yeah, it could be. Irina says, agreed, Natalie, there are celebrities or former OSA or other former members with hot knowledge made a deal with Miscavige. I leave you alone if you leave me alone. Non-aggression pact. Oh, I like that. A non-aggression pact. Pact. That's interesting. Aloha, Marilyn. Aloha, everybody popping in here. And hey, go over and hit that like button. Help us get some notifications out. I totally see that. Now, Natasha says, I think she's out. Oh, it would be so glorious. It would. Amber, good to see you. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Is she in? Is she out? What is the deal? What is happening? So she goes on to say that our life wasn't crazier because that was already there. That already existed, like the press and the crazy, the paparazzi, and all that, she explained. But I think when Lisa Marie Presley saw Michael's life, there were things that he had that she didn't have. She didn't have a plane at the time or things like that. Riley recalled how it made her mom think she should have a plane and other things, meaning their life in that way kind of got bigger. Before that, she was with my dad and their life was very simple. She didn't have 10 million assistants. She didn't need all of that. And I think that changed, the actor added. Riley was only about 5 years old when her mom married Jackson, and when the marriage happened, it wasn't long since the singer had first been investigated by police. Jackson had been accused of SA by families of 4 kids. He denied the allegations and was later acquitted. Riley said she was never told anything about these accusations while the pair was married. And let's be honest, that makes sense. You're not going to be telling a 5-year-old, right? If you left, you're out of that situation. You're not going to sit the 5-year-old down. Unless you're a Scientologist, then maybe. Because, big beings and little bodies and all. But that does kind of make sense to me. I would imagine that my dad was really heartbroken and reading the news, and I would imagine he said all kinds of things to my mom that we didn't know about, she told host Alex Earl. The way my parents parented was very much like, we don't fight around the kids. We don't ever say anything around them. We didn't know about any allegations. We had no awareness of it. Lisa Marie died in January of 23, and Riley completed her memoir For Her From Here to the Great Unknown, which was released in October 2024. So still, gosh, I want so bad to believe she is no longer a Scientologist. I would like to see her free from that, free to speak about it, just free to be away from it. I wish that for her. All right, people. Ooh, we got to wake up OSA because we're going to talk about some Scientology events I think they don't want to miss. Hold on. Oh, and by the way, thank you for the comment the other day. The string on Davey's mouth has been driving me equally crazy. I just kept forgetting to take care of it. Somebody commented like, I love when you wake up OSA, but the string on Davey's mouth is making me nuts. It was making me nuts too, girl. So thank you. Got that fixed. So David Miscavige, wake up your Office of Special Affairs. I don't know why that song comes into my head every time I do this. Office of Special. Oh my God, it looks like David Miscavige's are kissing me on the cheeks. Somehow this is not grossing me out. Probably because it's not really him. Okay, Office of Special Affairs. tone down the weirdness a little bit, Natalie. Reel it back in. Wakey, wakey. We're going to talk about some Scientology events coming out that really show us that Scientology is really working hard to go after the vulnerable, people who've experienced trauma. And they need to come up with new ways of recruiting, right? Because what's not working? Getting a table out on the street and selling Dianetics books. Too many people are seeing it and opening their cameras and being like, oh my gosh, Scientology's here recruiting. Look at it. It's not working for them. People are calling them out on it. Same thing with the volunteer ministers. So they have to find different ways. How we going to reach people? How we going to reach people? So I would imagine that they had a meeting. You know, my imagination, I love to imagine how these meetings go. They got together in the Scientology organization and they're like, you know what? Maybe we don't need people to come into these buildings. Maybe we just need to do more online workshops and kind of like slowly get them in. Well, that seems to be what they are doing at this particular Scientology. And I think if I made any effort whatsoever to look at other Scientology organizations, we would see the same thing. How to heal from the pain of the past, a free live webinar. Now, you might be on Eventbrite looking for some things. Maybe you've had some trauma, some happened, whatever. How can I move past this? Whoa, will you look at this? And it's free and it's online. How to heal from the pain of the past, breakups, divorce, illness, accidents, loss of a loved one, childhood trauma, and other stressful occurrences can be hard to get over. Really? Is it Scientology? I thought we're just supposed to act like it didn't happen. Once we've addressed it in auditing, it's done. It should no longer affect us. We're free from that. I'm just going to pretend. I'm going to take all my trauma. I'm going to put it in a couple of boxes and I'm going to bury it in the backyard. And then I'm just going to go out in my life and act like everything is absolutely normal and perfect. No, no more. Did that for a long time. Did not work. That stuff has a way of coming out. It's probably why I got all the autoimmune stuff. So goes on to say, this is today, 9:10 p.m. Central time. So it's in my time. So what is that? Like 7 on the West Coast, 7 p.m. So if you're in California, which I think is where this org is, here is what you will get. It's 1 hour. In this free webinar, you'll find out how you can fully heal from emotional trauma. Okay, I know it goes without saying that Scientology is the cause for much of our emotional trauma. And it's just kind of creepy to see them be like, oh, we can heal you from your emotional trauma. Yeah, you know how? By making you forget about that emotional trauma and giving you new emotional trauma and get y'all stuck up in that for sure. Did I see Liz go flying by? I saw somebody say hi. Aloha, Liz Gale. So also they're saying many things can trigger past trauma, causing you to feel the same emotional distress as you did back then. In this webinar, you'll learn, you know what? Why you guys didn't remind me? I should be reading this in my Scientology voice. Okay, I'm not going to start over. We're just going to start from here. But this is an interactive thing when we do these videos, you guys. I need you to help me remember things. Let's do a little bit of the Scientology voice, how they would read it. Many things can trigger past trauma, causing you to feel the same emotional distress as you did back then. In this webinar, you'll learn why traumatic events continue to influence you and how you can make them powerless to affect you anymore. Typical events causing emotional trauma that linger on include death of a loved one or pet, a bad divorce or breakup, a great loss, setback, or failure, a big life change, accidents, injuries, bad illness or surgery, sudden bad news, highly abusive or toxic people in your childhood, relationships, or work, betrayal. I mean, come on. The fact that they list out so many different ways, it's like one, okay, here's what I do know about Scientology. It's like they do try to really hone in their messaging. And I feel like you're trying to be too many things in this Scientology. You're trying to like just cover too many things. And exactly, Ginger Hansen, former Scientologist, interviewed her the other day, y'all. So aloha to Ginger. Scientology is like slamming your finger in the car door to get over a toothache. Drop the mic. I'm going home. I guess I am home. Yes, Ginger. Yes. That is one of the best analogies and example I think I have heard of that comparison to Scientology. Props to you, Ginger. That is so true. It's exactly what they do. So Hale Stokes is the host here, and this person is alleged to have many years of experience helping people fully recover from traumatic events. Has helped hundreds of people to do so. While it might seem normal for emotional trauma to persist, it doesn't have to be that way. So not only do they have this one, how to heal from the pain of the past, they got more. How to be successful in love. Do, 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 do. I mean, who doesn't want to be successful in love? That's on Wednesday, January 29th. And you guys, this is all online and free. So if any of you end up doing this, I want to hear about it. Feeling stuck? How to get unstuck and move forward with your life. Saturday on the 1st. Master your mind. Master your mind course. Saturday also, 2:00. Like, they have these happening every day. How to put emotional trauma behind you. It goes on and on and on. And you might be wondering, like, okay, well, where is this? Which organization is this? Let me show you which organization this is. It is the South Coast Mission. And there's a link right here to their website. This is their executive director. I was taken aback by how many young people seem to work here, which I think, now for a little Scientology conspiracy theory. Gather round. Don't spread this around, because I could have just pulled it out of my butt. I don't know. I'm feeling it though. Okay. I think Scientology is taking all of their young people, what few that they have, and they're putting them at these missions. These missions they're creating, which are smaller Scientology organizations meant to be feeder groups for the larger org, the Scientology org. Because we're seeing more of that. And I think we're going to see more of it. So you got the executive director here. This is the person who's leading all of these online webinars. This guy's the organization executive secretary. So mission directors, these are the two who own the mission. So this is which mission it is. I'll include the link down below. It's the mission of South Coast. So some online webinars, if you want to check them out. If you do, let me know. Thank you, VGIs. Pounce on that like button. Pounce on it. Pounce on that subscribe. Oh, interesting. Cassie says it appears Riley is playing both sides with Priscilla too. She acts like she's good with GMA, Grandma Nut. Allegedly cussed Priscilla out. Oh, good with GMA. I don't know if that's Good Morning America or that's short for grandma. Allegedly cussed Priscilla out in a leaked text message. Yeah, I know. I got the idea too that there was something more under the surface there going. I mean, they were in a lawsuit together, and then they were like, oh no, look, we're doing an event together. It's fine. But I mean, that's not so far out of the realm of possibility too. If you can, with the multiple businesses, I could see how they could have a lawsuit, but still be able to, come together to a degree. I don't know. Hard to say. So many things are possibilities. There's so much of it. You're right, VGIs. Mission holders are normally on prep step for upper OT. So mission holders, these people opening these missions, which again are much smaller. They can't deliver the steps on Scientology's bridge to total freedom. Not the way that an org can. They can deliver up through the state of clear. You can't do that in a mission. It's all the beginning stuff. And let's be real. In my opinion, a lot of the beginning stuff is stolen from other places, but a lot of it, that's where it's helpful. That's how they get you in. Scientology gives you a little bit, like, try this. It's going to make you feel good. Try it. Take a little. No, it's on me. It's free. You like it? Okay. Come around again. Here's a little bit more. Yeah. We'll tell you what, for $50, you can get a little bit more. You like it? Okay. 200, little bit more. And it just goes up from there because a lot of the beginning things are, some of it's common sense. It's found in other places. We know that L. Ron Hubbard stole a lot. And we're going to talk soon about how pissed off I am at L. Ron Hubbard right now because of Jon Atack. We're going to talk about it. Bina, yeah, Elvis is shaking his head. Can you imagine? He knew Scientology was a cult. Good morning, Beagle Mom. He totally did. Hey, Power Lies to Paralyze. Totally knew it was a cult. Okay, let's take a look at, speaking of cults and missions, Liz Gale. You guys have seen she started protesting outside of what we're now all calling Baby Blue, this mission that is near where she lives, which is also near Delphi, the Scientology school. And Liz has a plan she's putting together. It's so exciting. Let's take a look at this clip.
So I feel, so also what's over in that part of Oregon, about 15 minutes west of this little new Baby Blue, I'm calling it Baby Blue, is the Delphian School. It used to be called the Delphian Academy. I might slip up and call it the Delphian Academy or Delphi, but now it is the Delphian. It is a boarding school in Oregon. We've talked about it before. We'll talk about it more. It is.
I mean, seriously, right? How crazy is it that she lives by this Delphi school and now they open a mission by her? You would think Scientology would have or have some master map of all the suppressive people. You know, maybe there's pins in it. Natalie lives here in Minnesota. These people are around California, Florida. I mean, we span the country. Let's be real. We span the globe. And not be like, oh, let's open up this mission really close to Liz Gale. Oh, they have stepped in it now.
Based on L. Ron Hubbard's principles. They say they're not religious, but I call total BS on that. And I can go into why another video. But all these things coming together, it's like, who would have thought I would end up like living 30 minutes away from this center, this like new Scientology center popping up in a small town. So
it sounds like, Liz, I feel like that could be a song. New Scientology center popping up in a small town. Liz Gale says therapy is a loose term, so maybe it's not what we think, and Riley is playing both sides and or is under the radar. Oh, that's true too. That's true too. And by the way, you guys, I just put it in my calendar. Liz Gale and I are going to be getting together on Friday, 1 p.m. Central. I got to do a notification and stuff for it still, but keep that in mind. That is a great point, Liz. That is so true, because sometimes Scientologists will refer to their auditing as therapy to make it more acceptable and palatable to non-Scientologists or people outside of. They'll say that they're getting counseling or they're in therapy when really they're getting Scientology auditing, which is the exact opposite of therapy. It is the thing that causes you to need therapy. Oh my goodness. All right. Also news, let's talk about the UK for a hot minute. Apostate Alex is over there getting all kinds of shade thrown at him by Scientology, big time. Why? Because he's making an impact. And he recently went to a meeting where he got to sit near his own Scientology nemesis, his own abuser in Scientology, and he shares about it. And it was hilarious. I'm going to link it down below so you can see the whole thing, but let's look at a clip.
And so it was a full room. Now, I took a seat opposite Janet on the other side of the room because I wanted to make sure that, I was on the other side of the room to her, considering she is personally responsible for the abuse that is going on against me right now. She is directing the harassment and the intimidation tactics. It comes under her purview as the head of Scientology in the UK. So I wanted to sit on the other side of the room. However, the leader of the council, Councillor Farron, came up to me and said I should sit over on the other side, and she put a chair next to Janet and
next to the woman orchestrating the harassment of him. Can you imagine? Oh, I personally would love it, but I'm like twisted in the head. Let's see what happened next.
Directed me to sit next to her. So I jumped at the opportunity and I said, "Hi, Janet. So good to see you again." The last time I saw Janet was at the IES protest in October when she was standing at the gates of St. Hill.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so funny. He sat across the room, right? Like he was trying to be cool. Then he actually get to escorted to go over and sit right by her. And it sounds like he handled it fabulously. And if you go to his channel, I think it's on his community page. He's got this great selfie with her in the background, absolutely hating it. That's right, Michael. There's a community post about it. Absolutely hating it. The woman, the Scientologist, the handler, the OSA person. Oh my gosh. It just was too much. You just cannot make this stuff up. You really cannot. You cannot. Liz Gale, I think you're right. Missions are the new dissemination. I think you are correct, because what are we seeing in a lot of Scientology propaganda? We're seeing them opening ideal missions. It's like David Miscavige was like, oh my God, you guys, I can't even with you. I give you an ideal org program. I tell you. Oh, he meant I can't do David Miscavige, because that level of, I don't think I could conjure up that level of psychoness, but I think he's seeing it's not working with the ideal organization, that they're putting all this money and he's got all these real estate holdings, which I think was the idea. But what's actually happening? Nothing. They're still empty and people are seeing that. So I'm sure the new thing is, you know what? We need to cut back the gradient. We need to beef up the missions, get people to open missions, convince them that this is a way for Scientologists to make money and also be accepted onto the upper confidential levels, because you got to prove yourself. You got to pay a lot of money, but then you got to prove yourself as being worthy to Scientology. Jan. Hi, Natalie. I wonder if you click on a free webinar, if you're required to give contact info. If you do, I bet now they will count you as a Scientologist. Will they then contact you, stalk you? Probably. Although I would probably sign up with my regular email. I don't mind being on their mailing list. Then I don't have to go find when they're putting out propaganda. Just send it to me. I'm never like, but I'm not recommending any of you do that. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I thought about doing it because I kind of want to see, but I would do it as me. I'm not hiding. I'm not going to pretend to be somebody else. I'm just, hey, it's open to the public. See, I'm, not even to disrupt it. Just, I want to see. I might have some questions. Like, I want to know, is everybody on video or is it just the person? Like, how does it work? I still might do it. It's tonight. I don't know. Do I have plans? Ooh, I have a little bit of plans. 4 p.m. Central time, 4 p.m. today. Members only live stream. I want to thank Deanna Ross for becoming our newest member of Scientology Life After a Cult. Getting all those membership perks, which is mainly the members only live stream that we do every week. It is a wonderful way to give some extra support to the channel if you are down with that. My memberships start at $4.99. I think there's 4 levels. As we get going, we're going to start doing a video call with the upper 2 membership levels. I don't remember what they're called, but if you go to join membership, you'll see those options. And we're going to start doing that soon. So if you can, if you're able, if you want to help contribute to the channel that way, you can sign up for one of those memberships. But keep in mind the upper 2, we're going to be doing some video calls and stuff, because I've been doing that. It's been really fun, like even getting to know the moderators that way. So let's do it. Nancy will throw in some links to become a member, and there is one in the description of pretty much every video that I do. Liz Gale says, yes, that makes sense, because both Aaron Cairo and Devin Weber are OT, operating Thetan. Devin is a founder of the McMinnville, Oregon mission, and I think she's operating Thetan level 7, going on to 8. Ooh, Liz Gale got the tea. Yes, I think you're right. I feel like they're going to their more, affluent members and being like, open a mission, which is so ironic, because I know many of you former Scientologists from back in the day, you know what happened to the missions and you know who was behind it. David Miscavige was the one that ruined the whole thing to begin with. Not like it's hard to ruin Scientology, because they kind of do it to themselves, but it was a whole scandal. Maybe sometime we'll talk about that. I don't know a ton of the history. If any of you do, and you know of some good resources, so I can do a video about what happened with Scientology missions, can you email me, Natalie@lifeafteraccult.com? There's a couple things I'm working on right now. I want to do a video about the mysterious death of Flo Barnett, David Miscavige's mother-in-law, and some other tidbits about that. And I want to get more into this mission network thing, given that this is a direction that Scientology is taking. And I know many of you have been around for a long time. So let me know. Let's connect if you know anything about that. Nisa, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I feel like I need a bell or something. I want to celebrate it. I got to come up with something. All right, let's now talk about, oh God, you guys, I need your help. I'm so pissed off about this. I did this video yesterday with Jon Atack, and Jon Atack wrote a book called Let's Sell Them a Piece of Blue Sky. And he just exposes L. Ron Hubbard for exactly who he is. He brings the receipts. I've been out of Scientology for 15 years. I know Scientology is a scam. I know a lot of it is a lie. But there were things that I still didn't know, that I didn't know about Scientology, that I didn't know mainly about L. Ron Hubbard. And Jon was just dropping these things, and I was just becoming more infuriated. Like, I knew it was a scam, but I don't know, in my head, there was a part of me just thought that, well, L. Ron Hubbard obviously was into black magic stuff, which was weird, but maybe he tried to do better and come up with this. But then you find out, no, the intention the whole time was to screw people over the whole time. It was the intention the whole time. Susan P., thank you for being a member for 11 months. Gosh, how is that even possible? It's crazy. It seems like such a long time, but really it's not. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was nuts. So let's look at this clip, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff. And you guys got to go check out the video. I interviewed him yesterday, and last week we did another one. He just drops a whole bunch of truth bombs. So let's look at this clip and talk about how David Miscavige is worth a couple $2 billion and how he maintains control of this money. Wait, let me make sure. Is it pulled up? Yep.
Miscavige is now worth a couple $2 billion. You know,
Personally?
Well, if he who controls the bank accounts,
Yeah, true.
He has a living trust in the Netherlands Antilles. Or he did have. I don't know how much is in it.
That for him personally.
Yep. And he has control over the Buildings Investment Committee, BIC, which owns all of the buildings, pretty much all of the buildings. He has a controlling interest in every Scientology organization, and there are hundreds of them. And he has signed undated resignations from all of the other directors. So if he wants to get rid of you, he just writes a date on a piece of paper and you're gone. So he has control of the whole Scientology empire. Miscavige is now worth a couple $2 billion. You know,
personally?
Well, if he who controls the bank accounts.
Of course, he controls all the money. Of course, it's in all these different places. And of course, he's living the high life. We've heard the stories, the scotch, the sushi flown into the free winds from Nobu. I mean, this man just makes it rain when it comes to him, David Miscavige. His expensive suits and so on and so on. His luxury accommodations. I mean, the man had an entire building built at the international base for nobody but himself. Huge, huge. You could practically see it from space for nobody pretty much but himself. So it's really not much of a surprise that way, in those ways. But it also speaks to, I think, how and why he will double down on maintaining his power in Scientology and continuing to find ways to scam Scientologists. Jon Atack talks about too, like whether or not David Miscavige is a real believer, whether or not L. Ron Hubbard was a true believer. Very, very eye-opening. I got another clip for you from that. This one's on how L. Ron Hubbard took drugs while auditing on Operating Thetan Level 3. Took drugs. We didn't get to take drugs. No, we couldn't even take drugs when we should have been taking drugs, like some medical things you can take. But if you had depression or anxiety or anything like that, or even situational, you cannot. So to find out that L. Ron Hubbard, while doing operating Thetan level 3, which is where he says he discovers Xenu, right? And body Thetans that are attached to us. And that is what causes us to basically do all the crazy. He was on drugs. Listen to this.
And you have this sense that you take a big dose of it, you're being blown into hundreds of little beings, you're divided, and it's explosive. So there was what Hubbard experienced. He took huge, I think the expression is shitloads of phenobarbital. Now, then you trace this back further. Looking in his Veterans Administration records, he was on prescription for phenobarbital because he was supposed to have an ulcer. They never actually found the ulcer on X-ray, but it was a standard treatment then for ulcers because ulcers were believed to be caused by anxiety or stress. Of course, we now know 95% of ulcers are caused by Helicobacter pylori. It's a disease. It's not because you're stressed out. You get stressed out because your stomach lining's been eaten. But it was thought then you had to relax the person, de-stress them. So they give them these huge hits of phenobarbital. And you have this sense that you take a big dose of it, you're being blown into.
I had to hear it again. I know the video replayed. I just had to hear it again. What in the world? So L. Ron Hubbard gets to take phenobarbital. Is that how you say it? Yet the rest of us don't. Like he on drug. Now, I guess I had heard this at some point. I remember hearing it as a rumor, but I didn't know the actual facts about it. And I was like, that's how we came up with it? Like, you know how much money people have spent auditing away body Thetans? How much time? People on operating Thetan level 7 do this day in, day out. They're not supposed to take a day off. They can't drink alcohol, take other drugs and medication. They're not supposed to while they're doing it. And they're literally addressing these imaginary beings, not just attached to them on 7 at that level. They could be on the moon. They could be in all these different places. And you're spotting them and getting rid of them. I mean, I can see how that could also kind of fracture your mind to a degree. I remember doing operating Thetan level 3, and the biggest thing was like not having to do it anymore. Like you had to figure out a way to, oh yeah, here's my win here. I'm definitely done. So you wouldn't have to do it anymore. And it's purely, I can look at it now, especially after learning so much more of this truth about L. Ron Hubbard. And I can see like, wow, it was just so messed up day one, which again, like I said, I knew that, but not to the degree that L. Ron Hubbard was like doing drugs and engaging in other things. And then you find out too, and Jon Atack has spoke about this in both the interviews I did with him, that L. Ron Hubbard was bisexual. How many of you knew that? Really, I want to know in the chat and in the comments. Put a 1 in the chat if this is the first time you're hearing L. Ron Hubbard was bisexual. I did not know this. And that the first 10 clears on the planet back in the day with L. Ron Hubbard, 7 of them were gay. 7 of the first 10 clears in Scientology were gay. Yet L. Ron Hubbard went on to write the most homophobic things in Dianetics and Science of Survival, which Scientology has continued forward. No matter how much they want to pretend like, oh no, we're totally down with the gays. No, you're not. Your founder calls them criminals and sexual deviants, people we should not leave our children with. No, that's not true. Sanitarium Radio says he has to be because the black magic required homosexual sex. Interesting. See, didn't know that either. Is that a thing? I don't know. Haven't studied a lot of black magic. Mock, you're right. Homophobia usually is projected self-hate. It's no wonder. And then it even is more heartbreaking to me when you hear the story about Quentin. I always want to say Quentin, but John pointed out it's Quentin Hubbard, when he unalived himself in his 20s and he was gay. The torment, the things that he must have gone through. not being accepted for who he was. And the whole time his dad was bisexual. The first 7 clears were gay. This was completely covered up. I did not know about this. I knew the first one. I knew about the first one. I did not know about the 7, and it was just blowing my mind. Amber says, I believe it because he hung out at that sex club for a little while and they were doing everything. Yeah. This is the guy who then goes on to tell us how to live our lives, to tell us like what morality is. I mean, be who you're going to be. I'm not saying he was immoral because he was bisexual. You do you. You lied about it. And then you covered it up and you hurt people who were gay or bisexual for years, decades. So many. Do you know how many people have unalived themselves in Scientology because of that? Starting with L. Ron Hubbard's own son. When this whole time, the first 7 clears were gay. I just like, oh my gosh, I just cannot. Boda29, have you read Janice's 2 books? I thought they were great insight into LRH and the boat days. No, I have not. And Janice Grady is on my list of people I want to interview. I got her contact info recently. I need to reach out to her and get that set up because I'm dying to talk to her. Irina says, I think being bisexual is a bit of an overstatement, but he did some sex stuff with Jack Parsons and Sarah and her sister. Jack was absolutely bisexual. It is a question of how far Hubbard how far he went. Well, I didn't get into the details with Jon about like, you know, the exact receipt and details. Like, was it just something that he did with Jack Parsons or did it continue on? I mean, I think I remember, and I could be wrong about this. I thought Jon said something about having interviewed people, men who had slept with L. Ron Hubbard. I could be wrong on that. I feel like that's my memory, but I could totally be wrong on that. Okay, so a lot of you didn't hear about this either till right now. Sinners in Secret says, I found that stunning since Scientology is so anti-gay. The man doth protest too much, methinks. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. SPTV never ends. I guessed a long time ago that something happened to him sexually as a kid and or he went both ways as an adult. Yeah, it's such a scam. Amy Kimball says, because all are welcome to be scammed and abused. Sign up today. That's a big ner in my book. Spelled backwards means run. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Paralyzed to Paralyzed says, but if a boy kisses a boy for Satan, it's not gay, right? I mean, that sounds like some Scientology math for sure. For sure. Abraham, great question. How does one know that the Thetans are there and when they are gone? Okay, so this is the belief. I'm not saying this is reality. This is the belief in Scientology. When you have body Thetans that are attached to you and you're in an auditing session, you have an e-meter, you're holding on to the cans with one hand. This is done solo by yourself. There are operating Thetan levels like 4 and 5 where you have an auditor auditing you, but you're doing it yourself in the beginning. So you're holding your cans, you're working the e-meter, and then you're writing down your session notes. Now I'm left-handed, so I would be writing with my left, holding the cans with my right. Both cans connect with this adapter thingamajig, and you hold on to them. So using the meter, you locate, you put your attention on a place of your body where there's pressure or pain, something like that. And then you locate the body Thetan, body Thetans, because there could be one or they could be grouped together or like in these clusters. And then there are specific steps you run them through, which are really bizarre. It's like this incident that happened that involves cherubs and chariots. I know it sounds weird. It is weird. And then they blow, right? They leave, and the e-meter will show you. The dial will, they believe that the needle will have a certain reaction to verify for you that you've located body Thetans, and again, that they're gone. And if they're not gone, there are just steps you keep doing until you get the phenomena on the e-meter to indicate that they're gone and that you're done with that. So that's how they do that there. Jolie says, Natalie, your interview with him was groundbreaking for ex-Scientologists. It will help so many heal. Thank you. I felt that. Like, I felt myself healing in real time. Like, whoa, I did not know this. It's making so much more sense. And it's also helping me let go. I've let go of a lot, but I don't know. I'm still processing it, you guys. I really am. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but it is very much still, there are still things like that become more clear. And when I'm able to look at it from different ways, that I'm like, oh, okay, I can let go of that even more. Like, I didn't even know that that was still there. It's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing process. Paralyzed to Paralyzed, says Janice, is such a sweet lady. I agree. I've seen her videos. I haven't had the honor of speaking with her yet, but I'm going to track her down because I do have her contact info. I just need to get to it. Let's see. Oh, Cassie. Okay. Recently, Nat TV recently did a live stream about my article about Lisa Marie Presley and Riley's leaked text recently. It's called Lisa Marie's Shocking FBI Files Exposed. That's right. In fact, I forgot about that, Cassie. Cassie's Corner. Cassie writes a Substack. We've highlighted a few of her pieces. You guys should check it out. Oh, I'll have to check that one out too. E.S. Gotcha says, so you can't touch yourself or any other in any fun way, but he was touching anyone in arm's distance. Apparently. There's just so much there. Boda says, I learned so much from her book. So Janice's books, even historical events too, like the coup in Morocco. Oh, that is really interesting. Wow. Paralyzed. I got to ask him about that. I did not know that. That is disgusting. Yeah. Iasesky, good point. When he set this cult up, that was what Psych said about gays, so no surprise. Ellerate said same thing. Guess everything he did became don't do in this cult. Yeah, there's so much that he was doing that he then said not to do. And I understand too that it was the time, right? It wasn't homosexuality, being gay wasn't accepted the way that it is today. It's so completely different. But here's the thing with that, because I could look back and go, well, it was that time, right? So they thought that way. But it never got changed in Scientology. It was never updated to reflect the much more, evolved way of seeing things today and people and being able to have different sexual preferences that way. It wasn't. It just was not. It was different. But Scientology never changed it. And they continue to punish people for being gay. When I was in the Sea Organization, I had multiple people come through my galley, the dining room, where they were sent as punishment because of engaging in that type of activity. Multiple people. Multiple. So at some point when, a lot of people were changing their point of view on that, Scientology didn't. That's where I have a problem with it, by just chalking it up to, well, it was just back in the time. True, but they never changed it. They never updated it. They never became more welcoming, more inclusive that way. They kind of doubled down on it. Abraham says, well, the gays ain't trying to claim LRH. Y'all can keep that right over yonder. Oh, so true. So true. Nancy, if you can hear me, there's a message in the private chat there. I got a question for you. Cassie, that's a good point. I think David Miscavige is a self-hater himself. He's extremely homophobic to the nth degree. Gosh, that's true. And I have wondered about that. Because we have multiple reports and stories of him coming incredibly hard down on John Travolta for his activity. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys have just got such amazing comments here. I'm going to go back and read them all. So you're auditing the thetans away after the clear cognition or before? Miss Mouse, great question. After the clear cognition. So first you have to achieve the state of clear, which is when you realize, oh, wait a minute. I've been creating my own reactive mind and I don't need to do it anymore. Forget the fact that it was L. Ron Hubbard that said you had one in the first place. Talk about creating a problem and then positioning yourself as the solution. I feel like L. Ron Hubbard was really good at this. Let's convince people that they have a reactive mind and that it's doing all of these things. And then let's sell them tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of services and other donations, only to get them to the point where they realize that wasn't true in the first place. They're the ones who were creating it because they were told that they had one. It's nuts. It's just nuts. Sorry, you guys. I'm so behind and I'm just like fascinated. You guys have got some amazing comments coming. Keep that coming. I want to look at one more thing here. Let's see here. We're going to skip this thing. Do you guys remember the marriage hats? The marriage hats were written by L. Ron Hubbard's wife, but it was sold in Scientology bookstores as this is how you do a marriage. And yes, they're outdated because they were written back in the day. And yes, when Mary Sue Hubbard went to jail, that suddenly disappeared. Suddenly they did not exist. Nancy, I can't remember the whole thing, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Oh, that's right. Okay. The brain fog is strong with me this morning. Yeah, Venus is blue. LRH is like Glinda in The Wizard of Oz. You had the power to go home anytime you wanted, but we made you pay all this money. So anyways, the marriage hats. Mary Sue Hubbard wrote the marriage hats, and I remember them. It was sold in the bookstore. It was being handed out as this is your hat, your job. This is the beingness that you need to assume as a wife, and this is the beingness that you need to assume as a husband. And it is online. They don't, like I said, sell the booklets anymore because, you know, she went to prison and they had to hide all that. But I thought I wanted to share a couple pieces of this with you guys. So hats, right? Doing this that attains a product. This is some of the hat for a wife. Some of it's like, you know, it's fine to care for the home and family. Remember, I think this came out in like 1970. So you got to kind of realize that this was in 1970. But again, Scientology never updated it. I mean, they got rid of it. Live within the financial means of the husband, cook for the family, to budget the household expenses and such monies economically and wisely, to do shopping for the family, to raise and look after children, keep the home neat and tidy, do the washing and ironing. Support your husband in life by providing him with a calm, clean, happy home in which he can have the rest and peace necessary to fortify him in the battles of winning a living. Now, I mean, I think that both people in a marriage or relationship should support each other and do this. Here's my challenge. I would like to see this updated by Scientology, including their stance on homosexuality and all that L. Ron Hubbard said about it, because you put out Dianetics, you put out Science or Survival, you put out these marriage hats back in the day, and nobody who was actually living by these, not L. Ron Hubbard. Then they got a couple in there that's like, okay, I don't know about this. To submit to the decision of your husband if agreement cannot be reached. He is the leader of the family. Now, I'm not knocking anybody where you decide for yourselves that you want one leader in your family. That's pretty much how many of us, not so much me because I was in Scientology, but a lot of people were raised. I think it's so interesting today. Here, I'll give you an example from my own family. My daughter, Shelby, when she and her husband got married, Shelby kept her last name. And they decided that when they had children, if it was a girl, the girl would keep Shelby's last name. And if it was a boy, the boy would keep her husband's last name. And their first child, and right now only child, is a girl, and she has my daughter's last name. When it comes to picking up from daycare, I mean, it's very different. It's much more on equal footing because Shelby also works a full-time job plus, and her husband works full-time. And so you divvy up these chores. But it's interesting. I'm going to link this marriage hats down below because there's just other tidbits in there that kind of really give you the idea of, I think, how L. Ron Hubbard got away with a lot of this, because Mary Sue Hubbard was probably one of his biggest enablers in that way. I mean, she did prison time for this man. Well, he didn't. He was running off hiding while he let his own wife go to prison for him, on behalf of him and the others who were indicted for infiltrating over 136 different government entities. It's like no joke. It's nuts. Yeah, Venus blue. I noticed that too. I always say Venus is blue, but it's Venus blue. Now I got to call you Venus is blue. That'll be what sticks in my head. I've heard that Eric Rader, L. Ron Hubbard had bad breath that could melt your face off. 140 cigarettes a day keeps the bad breath coming. Yeah, I heard that it was over 100 cigarettes a day. It's crazy. I'm going to link that down below. It's just an interesting kind of historical piece there. Miss Mouse, LRH and David Miscavige marriage counseling will show you how to get rid of your wife and pretend it never happened. Exactly. You look at that. It's like, even David Miscavige, it's like, as far as we can tell, nobody's been able to find proof or evidence that he is divorced from Shelley Miscavige. And I don't know what the deal is there. There have been rumors that David Miscavige has been in a relationship with his assistant, Lou, which is short for, I think, Larice. And multiple people have come out with some information about that and why they think that is and what they saw. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Marlene, you're right. The good old days when women couldn't have a bank account or a credit card in her own name. I sometimes talk to my girls about this. Like, I don't know if you guys knew, like, we didn't even have tennis shoes. I mean, we didn't have like athletic wear shoes. Like, we had to wear boy shoes if we wanted those. They weren't made for girls or women, I think like the 80s or something. And yeah, in the 70s, early 70s, a woman couldn't have a credit card unless her husband put her on there. Have a lot of things changed. Thank goodness. Sinners and Secrets says this gives a Scientology flag a whole new meaning. Oh yeah, they would absolutely hate that too. Yeah, Lisa Pete, I can't believe I lived through that 50s BS. No wonder I didn't fit. Yeah. And I want to shout out all of the women and men who came before us or people my age who fought that fight, who worked for equality, because it was women and there were men too, who were a big part of that in helping them. Because I think a lot of women these days, it's so important in my mind for us to know and understand how it once was. And there's still a long way to go in many ways, but we've come a long way as well. And as those attitudes and way that we see people, and when we can stop seeing people as less than because of the color of their skin or their race or their preference or their male or their female or whatever, I have so much gratitude for that, because I forget too what it was like for my mom or what it was like for my grandmother versus how my daughters are living today and how they get to live today and the opportunities that are there. We still have a long way to go, but we've also kind of come a long way. And I think it's worth acknowledging. There's multiple times I find myself thinking, I am so grateful for the people who came before me and paved a way and made a path. It blows my mind. It really does. I think about that here and there. I think too, because I have these vintage antique etiquette books from I think I have one from the late 1800s and a lot early from the 1900s, and reading the differences on what women could do, couldn't do. And then there were little niceties that I almost wish would be brought back. But it's just interesting. I find it fascinating how we change over time as humans and in society. Cassie says, can you ask Jon Atack if LRH was ever accused of SA by the underage female commenters messengers? Him being surrounded by them gives me bad vibes. I will. I've not, and maybe someone in the chat can tell us, I have not heard of a story or report. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. I'm saying I have not heard that. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. That's a great question. I'll ask Jon about that. He is going to be on again in February, which is just weeks away. Venus blue. People often say families used to stay together. Divorce was uncommon. Well, women weren't allowed to own property, have bank accounts where they were supposed to go with where were they supposed to go with their children? Yeah, exactly. It's similar to me in ways of how in the Sea Organization, it's very difficult unless your job relates to it to get a driver's license. There's no reason for you to have a bank account. They don't want you to have a bank account. They don't want you to have an education. They don't want you to have any ties to the outside world so that you could support yourself should you choose to leave. They make the circumstances almost impossible. because they don't want people to leave. And a good way to do that is to keep them suppressed, to keep them isolated, to keep them uneducated, to constantly tell them they're pieces of shit who are never going to amount to anything. And if they leave, it is such a huge overt that they will be struck down by lightning. Trust me, when I was leaving Scientology, even though I was like battling them, it was still a thought in the back of my head because it was so indoctrinated into me. And I'm happy to say and sit here before you and let you know that I was not struck by any lightning or anything like that. I just became happier. I became happier as a result of leaving Scientology. Mia Mo, good to see you. I have to say, I love this chat. You have the most amazing people in the chat. So kind. I do. We do. You guys are awesome. And I always appreciate you keeping it aloha. I think we can share about Scientology and other cults and our experiences in a way where we can kind of bring understanding even for the Scientologists that are still in there. I can't wrap my head around David Miscavige. That's a whole nother beast. I need to I want to get to the point. I don't like having like a lot of icky feelings about somebody in my heart. And David Miscavige is one of them, and a few other people still in the Sea Org where I'm like, But I would love to get to the point where, is there a scenario where I could maybe not wish them well, but maybe not, I don't wish them harm. I don't know. I'm processing that part still. Forgiveness is an interesting part of coming out of a cult because it was never part of our world. It was never part of how we lived. It was very black and white thinking, and that black and white thinking leads to throwing people away because of it. If you don't think this way, boom, you're gone. We can't be friends. I have to disconnect from you. And it's not just even if you're in good standing with Scientology or not. It's all part of that black and white thinking. But you guys know about that. I could go on and on and on and on about that. Here's what we're going to do. 4:00 Central, we're going to do a members only live stream. If you cannot make it, please jump on the replay. Carla's loving wife, thank you for becoming a member. I hope you can make it today. Like I said, if you can't, catch it on the replay because we are going to have some fun. I mean, honestly, you never know what's going to happen. Sometimes it's really fun. Other times I'm just a hot mess. It's the members only lives are a great time for me to be able to get to know. This is for me. This is how I see it. For me to be able to get to know some of you and interact. Whereas when I'm doing a live stream, it's hard sometimes to really do that. And I love doing that. And just a way to have a little bit more of an intimate conversation too. It's just not as crazy. So if you can make it. I appreciate all of you. Please hit that like button and hit that subscribe as well. I will see you later. And in the meantime, I hope you all get out and have an amazing cult-free day.